Hey guys, welcome back to Vermont Maple View Farm. Today's mission is to fix that broken shock mount on the Jeep and possibly grind off some of the old mounting points from the old suspension, as well as the old shock points that were never done when the lift kit was originally installed. So first things first, we're going to drive the Jeep around so it's positioned right next to the garage, easier to work, and we'll get started. So we'll be back in 2 seconds.
The spring came out of the perch and everything. Son of a bitch.
Okay, so we're going to get started. First thing I'm going to do is just take the old shock mount bracket that snapped off the shock. I also just noticed while I was peeking under here, when the shock dislocated, it must have allowed the axle that little bit of extra travel, so the spring also has popped out of the perch. So once we get everything ground down, the new one welded on, and everything else before we reconnect the shock, we're going to have to try to jack up the Jeep a little bit, create some space, get the spring back in the perch, and then we will reconnect the shock. But before that, there's a whole lot of cutting and grinding and welding that's got to happen, which, don't judge. It's the first time we're going to be playing with all this fun stuff, so hopefully it goes well. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
The easy part. We'll get started on the fun part. We're gonna try to grind the old shock mount bracket off, or at least cut most of it off out of the way. Then we're gonna clean up everything here so that we can get ready to try to weld. And everybody at home, don't forget to remind me to disconnect the battery. All right, let me get the grinder. All right, phase 2, we're gonna try and cut that bracket off without cutting into the axle. Let's see how this goes. All right. I'm learning something every day. I need a pair of gloves. Or not. Alright guys, so we just got done with the major grinding portion of taking off the old stock bracket for the shock mount. Because of the location of where the trailing arm comes in, the bracket for that is tight up against the shock, and it makes it kind of a pain to get to. So we got the most of the metal cut off. I'm going to switch to the grinding wheel, clean up the axle from where the old shock broke off and from where the original shock mount brackets were. But we're going to start cleaning it up and get ready to try to weld on the new bracket. Here we go.
that just spun itself out. Alright guys, so I just cleaned up the spot on the axle where the new mount's going to go. You can look and see it's the exact same as the old one. It was part of the original Rubicon Express lift kit. So all I did was order a replacement Rubicon Express shock mount bracket. So like I said, we cleaned up the axle where the weld is going to go. I'm going to disconnect the battery. Thanks for reminding me. And then we're going to see how we do with our welding skills. So that should be fun. All right. Ow. Well, that was fun. Like I said, one of our first times playing with the new welder. I'm not going to say and try to make excuses. I think if I did have a little bit of a lift to put it up on and I wasn't crawling around, I could have done a little better. But hopefully it holds. And we're back in business with that. I think the next thing we're going to do now is try to jack it up to get that coil spring reseated. If that goes well, kind of give it a little bit of a hammer test to make sure that the bracket's kind of on there, and then reattach the shock and hope for the best. Now this falls under, now kids, don't do this at home. Oh, lots of bad boy stuff going on.
Oh, Jesus.
Right.
There she goes.
Goes everywhere except where I want it to be. Test drive one. All right. Well, let's take a look, make sure it's all still there. All right. So the coil spring is sitting where it's supposed to, at least for the time being. The shock seems to be back in its happy little home. So right now, we'll call it a success. The easy project turned into a long day. But that's probably going to wrap up Mapleview Farms video for this week. I don't know. I'm tired.